Australia yay or Australia nay? 2024 kicks off with the same debate about Australia Day we've been having since the first fleet arrived.
The Queen of Denmark stuns the world by announcing her existence before immediately stepping down to make way for her playboy son and his Australian bride.
Can't beat him? Delete him. We kick off the new year with Trump talk and a look at the political circus set to keep us information throughout the new year.
Should old acquaintance be forgot? No way! Remember the news that matters on Information News Network with Brian Sockington and Sandy Hosier.
And Joe Sockic with all the latest updates from the Australian Open and the summer of sport down under.
And Jane Bunion defends the Bureau of Meteorology as critics question its emergency warning plan.
We begin another new year in the land down under, where tensions grow throughout each summer, with the annual Australia Day controversy and outrage surrounding our national holiday. What was once a celebration of Australian culture, whatever that means, now a yearly outpouring of shame, confusion, grandstanding and anger, this year fueled by the recent failure of the Indigenous Voice to Parliament referendum and the cultural shift that has accompanied the long-awaited left-wing sweep of national and state governments. Protesters took to the streets in their thousands, using the skills they've acquired at pro-Palestinian protests throughout the previous weeks.
We're definitely coming out here in support of our brothers and sisters out in Palestine.
There's an interconnection between what's happening in Palestine and what's happening on Gadigal land as well.
I'm marching for Aboriginal land rights in this land. I'm marching for land back and to end the colony.
Abolish Australia! Abolish Australia! Australia Day is dead!
So, should we cling to the date like a koala in a eucalyptus tree, or should the date be discarded like a bucket of prawns in the sun? Christina Solich has more.
Like footy, fairy bread and faking a sickie, fighting over what Australia Day means is one of our great Aussie traditions. Gone are the days in the sun, rocking out in your undies, drinking from a goon bag, while Cheryl does your hair and the boys watch cricket over beer bongs. Nowadays, Jan 26 is more often referred to as Invasion Day, the shameful celebration of the arrival of Captain Arthur Phillip and the First Fleet in 1788, marking the beginning of the British colony which shaped almost every aspect of the society we currently live in. Arguments against celebrating on the date have been reprised year after year since at least 1938, when Aboriginal Australians held a day of mourning instead of celebrating like everyone else who was in formation with the British. In hindsight, Indigenous Australians must have felt like everyone was throwing a party on the day they were evicted, mostly because that's what happened. And of course there was some bad blood about the Poms, who were pretty shifty in declaring the land terra nullius, or no man's land, before claiming it all as their own, rather than negotiating treaties with Indigenous people as they'd done in other nations like Canada, New Zealand and America. Corporate Australia entered the debate, of course, Woolworths joining Aldi, Kmart, Target and others in removing all their items referring to Australia Day. Cricket Australia held a test match in Brisbane over the holiday, but announced they wouldn't refer to the day by name, kinda like the treatment that no-nosed bloke from Harry Potter got, which later extended to that regular-nosed woman who wrote the book about him.
It is irresponsible that they are playing sports on land where there has been massacres.
It's Australia Day. I just want to watch the cricket.
The only people celebrating were the organisers of Australia Day rallies around the country. This one outside Victoria's Parliament House congratulated the hooded vandals who filmed themselves using industrial cutting tools to chop off the legs of this 115-year-old Captain Cook statue.
He's got nothing to do with Australia Day. He had nothing to do with the settlement of Australia.
Larry Fillmore took a few calls on the subject earlier today to engage with everyday Australians about their thoughts on this important issue.
Line 1, and we're talking Australia Day or Invasion Day. You're on with Larry Fillmore.
Oh my God, darling! I'm on the phone with Larry Fillmore!
Who's Larry Fillmore?
You remember the old guy that hosted INN Tonight?
Oh, yeah? What does he want?
Nah, I'm on talkback with him about Australia Day.
Yeah,
Oh, right.
Good to hear from you there, caller, but what do you think about the Australia Day controversy?
Oh, Larry Fillmore, I can't believe it! Whatever happened to variety TV, Larry? I loved when you used to do those skits dressed as that Indian man. You remember when they dressed you as that Indian man?
Oh, I love that Indian man.
Those were different times, eh? But anyway, about Australia Day.
Oh, we love Australia Day. Ron and I always chuck the barbie on, don't we, Ron?
Too right we do.
See, now we're talking. Get a few friends and the neighbours together for a big celebration, do you?
Oh, no. We can't stand our neighbours.
Hate 'em.
And if they see we've got cars in our driveway on Australia Day, they'll hate us even more, for celebrating colonialism and all
Ask
that.
him if he knows how to shut next door's dogs up.
All right, I've had enough. I'm out of here.
Traditionalists continue to defend January 26 like it's the last Tim Tam in their packet, arguing the date's been celebrated for too long now to change it. Migrants continue to become citizens on the day, and we continue to use it to bestow our nation's highest honours on special Australians, like registered health practitioner Brett Sutton, artist Bill Henson, and morning TV host David Koch. For some reason. Celebrations are quietly being cancelled by councils. I suppose that's why they're called that. But one thing that never happens is a coherent discussion about an alternative date and what we'd even celebrate on it. Everyone's surfing the wave of change, but no one wants to get wet. And while we haven't had a revolution or even become an independent republic yet, there's still much to celebrate.
Like what?
Like Australia 2 winning the America's Cup in 1983.
Oh,
Or Stephen Bradbury claiming our first gold at the Winter Games.
that was pretty good.
And of course we have Kathy Freeman.
Are you sure they're right for a public holiday?
Well, something needs to happen, or this debate will go on longer than horizontal versus diagonal sandwich cutting, or whether pineapple belongs on pizza. Just with the additional weight of the rights and feelings of thousands of human beings with roots that extend back to at least 40,000 years on the land we live on. Christinia Solich, INN News.
Interesting stuff. Thanks, Christinia.
And if anyone does witness a fellow citizen celebrating the only day our government has allocated as a day of national pride, they are asked to immediately call Crime Stoppers, who will take the appropriate steps to ensure our national security. A queen in Denmark! Who would have thought, eh? But no sooner had the world remembered the existence of the oldest monarchy in Europe, Queen Marguerite announced she was stepping down from the Danish throne, making way for her son Frederick to become king and his Australian wife Mary to become his queen. Not a bad result for the much-loved royal family, who enjoy enormous popularity both here and in Denmark, despite Prince Frederick's alleged tomcatting behind his wife's back. But the title of King and Queen of Denmark should help smooth things over for our Aussie princess, who escaped Tasmania to meet her prince in a Sydney bar back in 2000 at the Olympic Games. Let's cross to our resident residents from Reservoir and experts on all things royal, the lovely Mabel and Dorothy Kankle. Thanks for joining us, ladies.
Good to be here, Sandy. We're still here, Sandy.
So, what can you tell us about the Danish royal family that we might not know?
Well, I was as shocked as anyone on New Year's Day when Queen Marguerite announced she was still alive, let alone that she was abdicating. I mean, I know they're a big deal with the Danish and people who read New Idea over here, but it'd been ages since I'd heard about them. I suppose they were due for an abdication, weren't they, Dot? Oh, overdue, I reckon. It'd been 900 years.
Interesting. So you're saying the Danish monarchy is the oldest in all of Europe?
Well, they go back to the 10th century, don't they, Dot? The Viking king Gorm the Old. That's right. He was around the last time your Bombers won a final in the footy, wasn't he? Oh, get lost, Mabel. She loves the Tigers, but I reckon the Bombers will go all right this year.
All right, ladies. Let's keep football out of this today, please. So, why do you think Marguerite pulled the pin? And are you buying any of the salacious rumours about Frederick's infidelity? Or that she stepped down to save his marriage to our girl Mary?
Well, there's been a bit of history there. Oh, he's a spunk, that Frederick is. Oh, yes, he certainly is. I'd have him round for a lamb roast for sure. You might have a crack too, the way he goes about it. Oh, well, I wouldn't want to spoil our Mary's marriage, but I'd have a crack. And now that Mary's the Queen, she'll probably learn to ignore all these other birds on the side, like they do on Game of Thrones. Horny little monkey. Oh, I can't help it. He's a very attractive man, Doc. I was talking about him.
So there is evidence about a royal affair then?
Oh, yeah. There's security camera footage of him with this beautiful Mexican model, and then they head up to her hotel room, and he doesn't come out till the morning, the little scoundrel. Our sweet Mary should dump all his royal clothes out on the streets of Copenhagen. Well, not a good time for that, though, now that they're king and queen, Mabel. Nah, you're probably right, Dot. Pretty smart move by the old bag, eh? And not for the first time either. Remember when she shafted her second son 2 years ago and removed his 4 kids' prince and princess titles? Oh, yeah. Must have taken a few ciggies to make that decision. Well, not too many. She told the media it'd be good for their future. Easy for her to say. Her son Prince Joachim didn't think so. Poor little tackers. How'll they find the strength to carry on?
Well, their uncle and auntie are the king and queen of Denmark now, so it can't be that hard for them. Plus, the Danish monarchy receives $18.5 million of public money every year to keep their operation running, don't they?
Well, yeah, but it's only $3.20 per person, and the British royals get $82.5 million from their taxpayers. No, that's only $1.20 a head over there, Mabel. Really? Oh, bless them. You know, these royals might not do much anymore, but they certainly give us something to talk about other than the footy. Well, I know you won't be talking about the Tigers this year. Oh, get lost, Dot. Like your Bombers are any better.
Okay, settle down, ladies. Now that you've put it that way, a little spare change seems like a small price to pay for saving a marriage and keeping our first ever Australian Queen happy. All right, thanks, ladies. I suppose we'll see you again for the next royal scandal.
Well, we should see you very soon then. Thanks, Sandy. Thanks, Sandy.
Bye-bye.
They say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting the same result. Just ask an Argentinian who's witnessed year after year of catastrophic economic decision-making that has destroyed their country's middle class and created record inflation that recently soared past 211%. Inevitably, someone eventually steps up to break the cycle of insanity. Someone new, familiar, formidable. Perhaps someone with a chainsaw. Well, here he is, and he might just be insane himself. Javier Milei has won Argentina's November election in a landslide, promising to make Argentina great again. I know, insane, right? Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, just 2 weeks after that madman was elected, another wild-haired right-wing firebrand won a general election in the Netherlands. Geert Wilders has been lurking around the Dutch parliament since 1998 and is well known for his golden pompadour, as well as being a populist anti-immigration Eurosceptic and fierce critic of Islam. If only he'd just say what he really thinks. Anyway, with these bold agendas, do these pioneers of style have the political substance they need? And how will this new wave of right-wing politics tie in with the gathering storm in the US? That original bad-haired bad boy, the one and only Donald J. Trump. James Plushfoot reports.
Not since the 60s has there been a better time for people with horrible hair. The carousel of politicians setting the trend will be joined by the recent winners of elections in Argentina and the Netherlands. And if polls are correct, Donald Trump's bouffant may rejoin the menagerie of wild style in November. Let's begin this new year by taking a closer look at 3 of the world leaders set to be among the most talked about people of 2024. So you can continue to be the smartest person in any room, especially if you happen to be in a mainstream newsroom. Argentinian elections concluded in November last year with victory for La Libertad Avanza and Javier Milei. Yep, this guy, also known as the Whig, the Madman, and by his alter ego General ANCAP, whatever that means. Milei was a former tantric sex coach and foul-mouthed media pundit turned chainsaw-wielding presidential candidate, with no prior experience in public office. A record 55.7% of voters, or over 14 million Argentinians, voted for this guy over the previous Minister of Economy responsible for the over 200% inflation in the country. A number so embarrassing that the incumbent president and vice president didn't even reapply for the ballot. Wielding a chainsaw, signaling his intent to slash government departments and the rate of inflation, Milei promised voters he would lead Argentina to superpower status again in just 30 years.
Don't let socialism advance. And don't let the siren calls of social justice fool you. I come from a country that bought all of those stupid ideas, and from being one of the most affluent countries in the world, now we're ranked 140.
In one of the biggest political upsets in Dutch history, Geert Wilders finally moved from political furniture to Prime Minister of the Netherlands last November, having held a seat in Parliament since 1998. The controversial figure and his Party for Freedom, which he founded in 2006, won 37 of 150 seats in Dutch Parliament, beating incumbent PM Mark Rutte, whose 4th attempt at building a stable cabinet collapsed, triggering a snap election. Wilders has vowed to address the ongoing asylum tsunami.
The Netherlands is for the Dutch again. We will limit the asylum tsunami.
The Islamization of his country.
The Quran really has more anti-Semitism in it than, for instance, Mein Kampf. So I rather would have no Quran at all.
And the indoctrination of children with climate, gender and anti-nationalist rhetoric and activism.
Wij zijn ook niet van die woke-waanzin. Wij laten onze toekomst niet bepalen door een club hysterische fanatici die alleen nog maar wil praten over diversiteit, gender en klimaat.
Perhaps because of this agenda, Wilders has been protected at all times by armed police since 2004. But now he seems to have the people on his side. What else needs to be said about the man who took on the establishment and steamrolled them in November 2016, beating the unbeatable Democrat Hillary Clinton and promising to drain the swamp in Washington, D.C. But this time, the political establishment are doing whatever they can to avoid his return, including 2 impeachments and these 4 indictments. Despite all this, polls show Trump remains as popular among his supporters as ever, despite having no agenda other than being stupid, orange, and dangerous. and of course these minor achievements of his first tenure as president, which won't be discussed on the mainstream news because
the return of Donald Trump to the White House could spell the end of democracy.
We could have a Trump presidency, and that would, in my opinion, be the end of democracy.
If he runs and wins, that could be the end of our democracy.
That would be the end of democracy as we know it.
It's the end of democracy.
That is a recipe for the end of democracy.
I think that could be the end of our democracy.
So, is there more than meets the eye with this new breed of politician? Beneath those brash exteriors and wispy hairstyles, each seems to be addressing the concerns of large portions of their populations, a rather novel approach to the game of politics that we've grown accustomed to. Perhaps in combination, they could shake up the global political establishment like others have done before, like UK Trump Boris Johnson, Trump of the tropics Jair Bolsonaro, female Trump Giorgia Meloni, and the Trump before Trump Viktor Orban. So, can the left-leaning media tolerate two new Trumps? And how will they handle reporting on the old one?
He cannot be the next president. A vote for Donald Trump may mean the last election that you ever get to vote in.
You might have any number of things happen to you and your family.
Every one of us, our freedom, our liberty, none of us is safe.
He can shoot the First Lady.
Make it illegal to run against him, to
terminate the Constitution,
throw his opponents in jail,
create mass internment camps,
to shut down the media.
He will make himself into the Fuhrer. Trump's very well-armed and extremist base will try to kill people.
Similarities between Mussolini and Hitler.
Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini.
Makes Donald Trump even more dangerous.
Wants to take away your vote.
He would try to stay in office beyond a second term. He would never leave office.
There's no question.
Jeez, sounds like we're set for some crazy times ahead. James Plushfoot, INN News.
Crazy times ahead indeed. Thanks, James.
He got his start in news way back then, and it wasn't long before this top draw sock was bringing you the biggest news events in the world. Now, so many years later, Brian Sockington is still bringing you information and keeping you in formation. Get information at innformationnews.com.
Sport now, and loads of cricket and tennis happening again, Joe. Must be summer in Australia again.
I missed that, Brian, but I'm actually here at the Australian Open right now, if you can believe it, at the new party arena at Court 6, where DJs have been playing through the day while the drinks are flowing. Great vibes here, Brian. Everyone's having a great time.
Yes, it does look like fun there, although I don't suppose the players are enjoying it much.
Joe! Nah, didn't get that, mate, but I hear the players haven't been enjoying this half as much as the 400 punters whining and dining while their games are on. Greek god Stefanos Sexy Pants isn't a fan, telling reporters he could hear the music on a subconscious level, despite playing all of his games at the big arenas here and here. Too much time in Mykonos for that bloke, I reckon. Spain's Paula Badoza was uncomfortable playing on the party court too, saying it was very noisy and loud, tough to concentrate, and probably not going to work in the future. Hopefully not what she's thinking about her sexy pants boyfriend. Although she won her first and second round matches here, and the bars were packed with blokes every time she stepped out on the court for some reason. Unfortunately, Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova, how'd I go with that name?
Yeah, good.
Nice. She was on the other end of Badoza's second round win, and some, quote, disturbing behaviour from a few lads who were screaming and meowing at her for some reason after enjoying a few too many drinks.
Oh, that's horrible. Make sure you tell them how horrible that is, won't you, Joe?
Oh, yeah, quiet, Jane, there's a game on.
Well, it seems like another big success for Tennis Australia, who obviously needed to change things up a bit after breaking attendance records for the last 2 years and being the most highly attended Grand Slam in the world.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Nah, Brian, you'll have to speak up, mate. But tournament director Craig Tilley has already hinted at expanding the party court idea. And with the way the prize money's going with these players, they can bloody put up with it, I reckon. Anyway, let's cover the cricket during INN's Sports Wrap. The Big Bash League enjoyed a mini resurgence after canning a bunch of season games that didn't mean anything. The Brisbane Heat made amends for last year's loss to Perth, smashing the Sydney Sixers by 54 runs and winning the first title for Bris Vegas in 11 seasons. Pakistan made the Test season interesting for a bit. No one cared enough to turn up in Perth, but Boxing Day and New Year's went alright. Sport commentator turned Perth Mayor Basil Zemplis was more entertaining than the games, first bagging Melbourne cricket fans for not turning up enough. Then we watched him desperately try to worm his way out of these comments he made about the women's tennis final.
Tennis is on tonight, isn't it?
Yeah, the female final.
Yes, it's a reserves game then.
Yeah. Shut up, Baz!
Okay, all right.
Of course, he announced he's running for Parliament a few weeks later, and I'm sure he'll be the perfect man for the job. And the one-dayers were on. Wait, the one-dayers were on? Jane, did you know the one-dayers were on?
I had no idea the one-dayers were on.
Hey, mate.
Yeah.
Do you know who came down for the one-dayers?
For the West Indies.
Oh, the West Indies were here. Oh, did they go alright, did they?
Yeah, not bad.
Oh, nice. Good on them. Do you want to grab the next round, mate, or is it my turn?
It's your shout, mate, on your wage.
That's mine. Oh, well, they don't pay me anywhere near enough, buddy.
Really?
Nah, all the money goes to bloody Brian and Sandy.
Really?
They end up with most of the loot, mate. Even the hand's struggling. Cut him off! Cut him off!
Oh, Joe Sockic there with some interesting insights. Thanks a lot, buddy.
Jane Bunion with the weather now, and Jane, you and Joe certainly got the good gig this month. How's the vibe courtside at this year's Australian Open?
Sandy?
15
it's hard to hear, but the vibe is really good out here at Court 6. Sandy's a funny name.
Oh, jeez. Jane, the Bureau of Meteorology have been receiving a bit of criticism lately, and...
what's that, Sans?
The bomb. The Bureau of Meteorology. It's coming under fire for not...
Joe, is she saying bomb the Bureau of Meteorology?
What's she saying?
Do you think she's losing it?
No, the bomb is the Bureau of Meteorology, Jane. You work there.
What? Who's under fire? I didn't hear anything.
Is the game still on?
Yeah, shh. It's the second set. I think they've given the players earplugs or something.
Oh, Jane, the bomb where you work.
Oh, the bomb. Now I know what you're talking about.
It's been criticised for not preparing Queenslanders for the horrible flooding that's been going on. As a former employee, what's your take on this?
Well, first, the BOM is a respected federal government-owned weather institution, Sandy. They've been around since 1908 and don't like being referred to as BOM, which is why they requested that the media stop using the term. So we should be respectful of how they self-identify.
Yes, but they just spent $220,000 of publicly funded money on this rebrand, like just over a year ago.
Well, yeah, but it's standard practice now to ask how one would like to be identified. For example, hi, I'm Jane, and I use she/her pronouns. Shall I refer to your weather forecasting bureau as the Bureau? Or do you prefer using a different identity?
So let's finish this up quickly. The Bureau, they're not getting a lot right at the moment, are they? Queenslanders received emergency weather warnings after the storms had already passed through. And long-term forecasts for this summer indicated unprecedented hot and dry conditions that haven't really transpired anywhere. So, aside from the rebrand, what are the bombs spending their money on?
The Bureau, Sandy.
Oh, the Bureau.
Well, they just updated their supercomputers from Hewlett-Packard's Cray a couple of years ago. They're a bit sketchy about revealing the budget for these things, though.
How sketchy?
Well, they just don't release it all. And the current federal government pulled funding that was allocated to developing our own weather satellites through the Australian Space Agency when they got into power.
Well, why do those satellites need special funding for development?
Well, because we don't have any.
Oh. Well, I guess the satellite data from overseas will have to make do for a few more decades then. Anyway, have a Pims for me, Jane.
Oh, for sure. Joe's taking me out for cocktails after this, aren't you, Joe?
Yeah, we're in the middle of a tiebreaker, Jane.
Oh, let's wrap this up, eh? How come they get to go drinking at the tennis and we're here with the hand up our backsides all day?
We're still on, Jane.
Oh, sorry. Well, that brings us to the end of our first episode for 2024. And it's our 21st today. Wow, 21 episodes already. Well, most already. The Hand's a one-man show down there. But we have got well over 100 videos on our YouTube channel right now. Yes, and you can see them all at innformationnews.com, where you'll also find our store, as well as links to become a producer of our future episodes by starting a subscription if you'd like, or making a donation. And remember to like and share our videos with your friends and family on social media. But until next time, may our news be your views, and goodbye. Bye now.